Are we actually? Well, today's starting off with a bang. Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 1st, 2023 at approximately 4:32 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind everybody that working together, we can make this world a better place for just about everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools that I offer are the same tools that I personally use, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the same ones that I personally live my life by. Now, things are a little scrambled today, and I'll explain that in just a second. But let's start off with little Katie getting in with the gold. Shadow has come in with the silver, and Tara has just come in with the bronze. Welcome. Glad you could all make it. Today's been a little screwy, and there we have Emily coming in with honorable mention. Today started off a little scrambled. I was really tied up sorting out an issue with the Yldrbac Chronicles. JCL, how you doing? I'm glad you could join us tonight. And I lost track of time. So, of course, my alarm went off and said, oh, you got 15 minutes to showtime. So, from that standpoint, I went, oh, got to get started. So I dropped what I was doing, went to log into YouTube. And, of course, it says, oh, you can't come in. You can't get into YouTube. There's a problem there. So I'm going, okay, well, that does not help. So went to reestablish everything, and all of a sudden YouTube decided it was going to work for me. This is just my life where it comes to technology. So I didn't even get a chance to get anything really set up, which is why I decided, okay, well, since I got so tied up, I got up at 1 o'clock this morning, right? Got to bed at about 10 o'clock last night, got up at 1 o'clock this morning, and was up, grabbed an hour's nap at 1 o'clock this afternoon. But I've been working on the books all day. Angels, how we doing? Glad you could join us. So it's been one of those days. So I'm going to be a little scattered for half a moment, like I'm not any other day. I run such an absolutely organized situation here. What am I looking for? I am looking for this. Now, let's see if we don't manage to scramble something completely just to mess things up for us. Oh, look at that. We are already live. There's a cute little problem. Okay, we'll go with that, since it's already coming up without looking for it. And lo and behold, we are here. Well, that worked out well. And who do we got? Dogface, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So, I didn't have time to... Well, I technically had 24 hours. But when you get started off on a scramble note to begin, you run into all sorts of complications. And no, I didn't even have a chance to get my coffee. Of course, I probably would have done better if I made some at some point today. But with that in mind, where did I put it? Let's get a couple of things moved around. Yes, I'm going to be up and mobile a little because I sort of have to be in this case. Because like I said, I didn't actually take the time to get organized, as it were. And that's the board I want. Before that goes missing, that can come over with me. Pen's already there. That's a bonus. Yep, today's going to be a little odd. But with that in mind, this is why I figured when I realized what time it was like, no, we'll just set the door open. And if people have a question, by all means, ask. Okay. And like I said, if I don't have an answer, I'll at least be honest and tell you I don't have an answer. So that takes care of that problem, gets that out of the way. I'll tell you, there are days when running around, when doing multiple things at the same time, doesn't work as well as you might think. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever run into this before, but you get so much on the go that all of a sudden you're going in every direction at the same time. But this is what I was referring to the other day about the fact, I got started late. We're like 5 minutes in, and we're already sitting at 7 in the chat room, which when you look way back when I started, if I got 7 in the night at the same time, I was doing well. But I did come to the conclusion that getting things organized is kind of necessary, which is why I ended up spending the majority of my day-to-day working on, spent the majority of my day actually working on the projects, on getting organized. Seemed like a reasonable thing at that point. Right now, it's really feeling like I didn't do much in the way of getting organized. So I hope you'll forgive me for that one. But had an interesting complication. Get that out of the way. See, it doesn't actually take forever, but it does get a little twisted on occasion. That's over there. This is usually what happens before I actually get on and get the show turned on. Is I've usually done all this running around beforehand. But apparently that's not going to happen today. Okay. That's all where it belongs. Let's take that over there. So these are just sheets that I was going to be going through anyway. So grab those, make sure we've got that right. Now, when you're striving to reclaim power over your own life, first rule of thumb is have a definitive purpose. Why are you doing it? What is the primary reason that you're doing it? Are you actually striving to sort your life out because somebody else said you're disorganized and you've got to get your life in order? Or are you doing it because you came to the conclusion that you're not content with the way your life has been running? Okay. Now, I know in my case, it really boiled down to an issue of not being happy with the way my life is working. So let's see what we're working on here. Okay, that has to be hung on to because I went through today when I was going through the files in that filing cabinet, the one right here. I've been going through it to eliminate the excess clutter from that as well. Now, I think what we should do is if we come up here, grab that. We'll move that. What I'm talking about, that is my compendium file, the Excel file that I've got to make sure that I'm on the right track regarding the chronicles. Because I will tell you, if you're striving to get things in order, knowing how to organize is a real key factor. And many people that are running around in circles haven't got a clue how to get organized to start with, which is where half the problem comes in. Okay, because if you don't know where to start, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to get things moving. Hopefully that makes sense. Yes, I'm definitely a little scattered today, but so be it. I just kind of look at it going, I get days like that. The reality of it is that from your standpoint, it's time to really take a look in the mirror and go, are you content with where your life is? If not, what can you do about it? So I'm looking at these sheets, and let's just see what we got here. on storylines, which I think is right about there. Chapters, active threads. Okay. Oh, that's cute. I have no idea why I've got that there. Okay. That can be eliminated. Oh, jumping Jimmy should not have done that. Was not far enough. Okay, that's a. Oh, I know what that was. Okay, so that shouldn't be there at all. Anyway, get an idea in your head of what you're working with, of what you're content with, because that is the first thing. It's not about what other people are thinking about. It's not about what other people feel is necessary. If your life is not doing exactly what you feel it should be doing, then it's time for you to take dominant control of it and really shift gears. Okay, so all of that I will have to do afterwards. Now, what have we got going on here? Just a tad scattered today in case you hadn't noticed. So I'm going to have to sort of take a moment, which is why I'm going like this. Brain's all over the place, mouth is going right hand in hand with it. Which I know that's abnormal from your guys' standpoint. I'm usually so collected. Somehow I don't think I'm going to qualify on the collected side today. But what I can tell you is that while I had a major issue with the Yldrbac Chronicles. Very major issue. The people used to drive a Samaritan back in the birth of the wolf pack and the end of an epoch. But near the end of the epoch, they changed vehicles into the Rattel. Okay, and for those of you that are not aware of it, both of those are military vehicles that these guys are running around in. But I swapped it over in book 11 and then made the mistake of, because of habit and the fact I'd already written 800 pages of the Chronicles, I ended up just by habit, if you will, continuing on referring to the vehicle as the Samaritan. Okay, so I spent the day making sure I got those books all sorted out again. Not to mention eliminating some of the spare files. Okay, this is what's called the twisted mind of an author. And yeah, especially when you think of the number of books I'm writing at the same time. Okay, now it's a question of just getting on track. So, from that standpoint, I do want to point out that the other thing I went through, I mentioned in order to get the book to get Races of the Worlds out on time. On time being when the pictures are done, based on 5 pictures every 2 weeks. Okay, if that works out that way, I will have the writing done. And like I said, that meant I had to get 10 pages a week done, as in 10 from starting with Sunday, and we're just running the week Sunday to Saturday. Okay, well, I got my 10 pages done today after yesterday doing 19 pages of notes. So yeah, I'm on schedule to get it out on time based on the time that we've laid out for the pictures. Because the idea here is, once the pictures are done, I'd like to get it into print just like that. And of course, yes, I'm still having fun trying to get myself organized regarding marketing, because that's the biggest problem here. All the money that I spent on, and this is a caution for you people that are striving to write something or get your written work published. The number of companies that I have talked to, and I'm not going to go giving names right now, okay? Just not going to happen, because there's all sorts of complications that can come in. But without exception, they've told me they can help me with the marketing. They've claimed they were going to get things done. And without exception, They haven't done any of it. They've got the websites up. I must have 5 or 6 websites built by different people, okay, that are up and running, or more to the point, that are up. But none of them are doing what any of the people have said, except one individual told me he could build the website for me, but he had no idea how to do anything with the marketing. Okay, now that person built the website, okay, and he told me right up front, I don't know how to do the marketing, so that's not where my forte is. Now, on the other plus side of that, they didn't charge me anything to start either. Now, I do have to find a file that should be up and running because I just scrambled to get it up. Let's see here. This one. What? That didn't work. Of course, the mouse isn't going to work either properly. So we bring that up, and where is it? Take that, move it up over here. And Shadow, you're in the house, we see. And since I didn't get these up in order, I figure we might just well get them up as we can. But this is the link to Shadow's YouTube channel. I really strongly encourage you guys to check it out. He's got some phenomenal ideas and great craftsmanship where it comes to working with painting or making figurines. Okay, absolutely give him a look. And do subscribe to the channel. It is a really well done channel between he and his son. Okay, just a thought. And then of course this is where, not exactly where it all began, but it is really this site. This is Dave's. Okay. Oh, shit! What is the date today? We are into February, are we not? Holy mackerel, would you look at that? We are back on Spaced Out Radio in 2 days. Back with the ET Connection. And, that's been going on now. We've been with Dave doing the ET Connection for something in the neighborhood of 8 years at this point. Okay. And it's not showing any sign of sidetracking. We're not looking at bringing that to a close at all. But when I mentioned I had a website, and I do have a website up and running, okay, terribly poorly marketed. Apparently that's my doing in spite of what I was told. But this will give you an idea of the different books I've got and the cost of them. Brown Dwarf, how you doing? Glad you could join us. This website will tell you there's a few of the spots that are already linked to Amazon. All of them were supposed to be, but they're blaming me for it anyway. So, that said, all the prices are right, and the reality is I do work with PayPal. Okay. And here's the email. If you're striving to get into my PayPal account or into my PayPal to order, okay, this is how you do it. Here we are. And this is the email. That's not only a direct email to me that I do tend to try and keep on top of. Of course, the last 2 days has been a bit of a shambles. But that's also the email that I've got set up with PayPal to get things moving around. I do not like coming in at the last minute. This is why, when I was actually working for fast food or for any restaurant, I hated coming in at the last minute. I don't know about you, but when you come in last minute, you're scattered and your adrenaline's going too fast for your brain to keep up with this sort of thing. But let's see about getting these other ones up here. Now, hopefully Nathan will join us again here, in the chat room. But this is Nathan's show. I've been on his show a couple of times, and he's always got some interesting, it's neat. He's always got some interesting topics to look at. And there's a few other people that end up on there with us. Like I know when I've been on there before, when I've been on Nathan's show, at the Quantum Show, I've been in there and Shadow has been in there with us. There's a couple other people in the chat room that have a tendency of joining us. Or joining Nathan. I shouldn't say us, really. Because I'm not there regularly. I'm really not. What is the day today? That's always the fun part. Because I always have trouble trying to remember what day of the week I'm on. Okay, so today really is Wednesday. And we'll see how that goes. Well, yeah, I don't think that's what I need to worry about. Probably do, but not going to. In any event, we've got a lot going on. As far as I know, Shadow, I am intending on being there. Saturdays tend to be pretty stable for me. I've got another show that they keep asking me to come on to tonight, on Wednesdays. Problem is, by Wednesday night, because of when it comes on, lately I've been dead to the world by the time it comes on. So, my schedule's gotten real screwy. And much more importantly, when I look at some of the issues I've been dealing with, right, my focus has been a little scattered, in case you hadn't noticed. But yeah, I'm hoping, as a matter of fact, I should do that right now. Where did my pen go? Of course, my pen went missing. Saturday, 7 p.m. That is the Quantum Show. So, where are we here? That is the 4th. So we have, on the 3rd, we have Spaced Out at 9. I don't think you can hear me with me way over there with my back to you. So I'll put this back over here. So at 9 p.m. PST, we'll be on Spaced Out Radio. Just writing my schedule in to try to do my best to join Nathan on the Quantum Show on Saturday at 7 p.m. Okay. And of course, I am hoping to be on another show tonight, but I don't know if I'll make it that long. I was up at 1 o'clock this morning. Got to bed at 10 o'clock last night, woke up at 1 o'clock this morning, and then had this really neat problem of I had to grab an hour's nap at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So whether I make it all the way through the night, that depends on how things go. The reality of it, like, I love the way that this chat room works, in this room. I've always looked at things and gone, look, if you're going to do something, make it welcoming for everyone. Okay. And I'll tell you, when people ask, I've been asked, well, do you like people? Well, it's really not that I don't like people. I just don't relate to them. Okay, and this is why I became reclusive to start with. Of course, in all fairness, I'm finding I don't exactly relate to me all that well. But, let's see. I haven't even checked my emails today. Like I said, I got started this morning and I got on this idea. I had to remove some of the excess files because they were starting to get cluttered. So I went through, I finished sorting out the files with Races of the Worlds. I have a working file that I know for an absolute certainty is the updated file. Okay, it is what had to be brought in line. What do we got? Oh, Brown Dwarf, have you taken to showing people that you can cook on the air? I mean, I will tell you, this is not something I'm going to be doing. First of all, because my computer and my whole setup is in my office, not over in the kitchen. Second of all, I don't think you really need to see me pour pork and beans into a bowl and stuff in the mic. I don't think that's much to work with. Couple of different rooms. Let's see, we got that one. Now I don't get in here yet, but he usually comes flying through the door, on his way in. But this is Chad's room, and I do try and pop in with him periodically. Of course, my schedule and his seems to be a little screwy, but absolutely, check out his site. Do subscribe to it. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Oh, that's what that is. Yeah, I find raw garlic has a little bit too much of a kick to it. But I do tend to cook with garlic a fair amount. I certainly tend to use garlic simply because I know it's good as far as the health goes. Right. So, like I said, I have been working and bringing my health up to speed. Sad to say, haven't done that very well today. Been eating a lot of junk food. Ended up sleeping a little, but boy, did I get a lot accomplished. Oh, that was stuff I had to work on. I'm just looking at a chart up here. But no, I started out this morning and I went, I've got to get Races of the World set on a definitive schedule. Right. Now I've only got 15 more pictures to do. Okay, to complete it. Now, giving my artist enough time to get them completed, and I will have to drop him a note just to find out how things are going, just to touch base, right? But I figure if I work at the basis of 5 pictures every 2 weeks, this gives me 6 weeks. But as it turns out, let's see if I open that up. Let's get that one out of the way. Where is Races of the World? Or did I not have it? No, I closed it down. So let's open it up so I can actually figure out how, because I know there's more pages on it than what I had. Let's just take a look here. Come on. Open up. Where is Races of the World? No, we're going to have to open and browse for it. There we are. Yeah, there we are. 2023. This is the current file. Now, let that kick open. And we grab this book here. Now, this is the current book that's out. This is the one some of you have already picked up. Okay, to give you an idea on the expansion level. Okay, this book has 64 pages to it. Okay, 64. Meaning it covers 59 individual races that I personally have dealt with. Now, to give you, where are we here? Oh, nice. I've got 64 pages there. But I've only expanded the first 10 pages. Okay, by adding information, adding technology levels, different technologies that have been dealt with. And let's blow that up properly. And then we take a look, and we are currently at, it had 64. Now, I was only, like I said, all I'm doing is I'm adding to the information that's in the book. Okay, that's already in there. But currently, the second printing of Races of the Worlds will have 82 pages in it, and I've only just begun expanding it. Because what I'm doing is I've added to the front end, I've rearranged it a little, but I've added some of the linguistics that I have been dealing with, some of the terminology that is used, some of the technology, who developed it, and what it is for. And then I've elaborated a little more on the hybridization program, as well as filled in a little bit more on the Galactic Consortium itself. Now, in just that, and what do I go? I've gone through most of A. Okay. Like I've gone through the first 10 pages. And in doing that, we've added 18 pages of information, 18 pages. Some of that is undoubtedly because as I added it, it simply pushed it onto another page, because each page or two has one race. Okay. I've also, of course, included the pictures in a lot of them, which is what I'm working on. So this is where things have been going today. And let's see. If you've got your books in front of you, if you've got a book handy, we've already got the picture of the Anunnaki, the Arborean, the Archons. Those have been already verified as far as that goes. That I've seen, in all fairness, football, the Chupacabra, which is something I am adding to book 2. It's not going into book 1. Book 1 is just an expansion. But the Chupacabra it's kind of like saying, it's kind of like asking if there's different types of dogs. Okay, because that's essentially what a Chupacabra is. Yes, it eats different things than what we're used to. But and I am doing a write-up on it, doing an entry in it in volume 2, which I've already started working on. But once book 1, once the second printing is finished, we go straight into the the production of volume 2. Okay, so this is why I'm looking at it. And where are we here? With Races of the Worlds. Okay, that book in your hand. Forget the fact that if I ever get Amazon working properly or get other ways of dropping my prices, including shipping. Okay, shipping, taxes, handling, the whole 9 yards. And frankly, I don't charge for handling. Okay, I don't even consider how long it takes me to get something written. But in your hand, okay, that particular book, Races of the Worlds, is in your hand anywhere in the continental US and Canada. Okay, $30 Canadian is all I'm charging for it. That covers everything so that I'm able to actually reprint it once I sell and once they're sold. Okay, so I can keep the stock running because of the cost of production. And the reality is, I tried going through so-called professional companies. Okay, problem is the so-called professional companies have, without exception, dropped the ball. Okay, now whether it was because I misunderstood what they were offering or because I was flat out led down a wonderful garden path, I can't be certain, which is one of the primary reasons why I don't tell people the companies I've been working with. Okay, because it doesn't make sense to. If it's my misunderstanding, I spend a fortune being a fool. Okay, but doing it the hard way, this is one of the reasons why I'm looking at evolving the whole printing of the whole production side of it. Make sure that I can still cover the expenses. But here's the other thing I've been thinking of. If there is somebody if I end up making contact with somebody, even on a private level, where I can ship books down to them, okay, and cut down on the cost that way, I'll go that route as well. That's just an issue of a different type of contract. Okay. But this really is a question of going, I've got to take care of for this life. No, the contract you have for this life is actually quite simple. You set up ow, I do not like sneezing. Usually that's painful. Hey Carlito, how you doing? No, the contract that you deal with this lifetime is you set up a whole bunch. You set up a lot of different things that you desire to gain wisdom around. Okay, and those things, that's what you lay out. Okay, but how you go about getting them depends on the connections you make, the choices you make in life. The obvious example is if you came in with the intention of gaining wisdom around cancer, your choices and the things you decide to do in life will determine whether you gain wisdom around cancer by dealing with it or by helping people that are dealing with it. Okay, that's where the contract ends. Okay, now yes, you may have agreed with another soul or with whoever you call God that you were going to do something. Okay, and the reality is, where I come from, when you say you're going to do something, that is the thing that matters, not the piece of paper. Okay, the piece of paper that you sign has little to nothing to do with anything. Which is why I tell people, whether you're living, I love the people that go, you're living in sin. I'm thinking, like, I live in Kelowna. I don't know about you. I don't even know if they're actually, that just brought to mind a complete sidetrack here. What happens if we type the word sin, okay, and qualify that as a city and see if it shows up anywhere other than the movie show? Sin, yeah. No, we'll have to do that the other way. So we just type it in this way. Is sin, well, the name of an actual city? Oh, yeah, Las Vegas is known as Sin City, but it doesn't seem that there is an actual, city named Sin. So that's okay. Now, you're going to have to forgive me for a half second. I will be right back. Don't go away. Love you. Huh? Yeah, I'll stay that one or go to sleep. I don't care. I'm on air. Love you. Sorry about that. Things do get a little screwy on occasion with me. I had to go and double check, make sure things were going well as far as my munchkin was concerned. Now, what did I miss while I was here? Or more to the point, what did I miss while I was gone? Sometimes, okay, sometimes people do set up a contract with each other. We're going to come into this world, we'll find each other, and once we find each other, we're done. We're checking out. Now, this is not the same thing as a suicide pact for humans. This is a question. Usually that kind of connection is because the two people go, I've been looking for my soulmate. I now know you're my soulmate, but I've got to do one more run into the corporeal world on my own. So let's go in there together. Go in there, find each other. When we find each other, we'll check out. Okay. And because at that point, once soulmates who have found each other in corporeal form, once both corporeal forms are finished, the people reconnect, they merge, the souls merge into a higher entity, and then you carry on. Okay, but I presume, football, that you're referring to these people that are going, oh, let's all get on a plane and have the thing dump itself into the middle of the Alaskan highway, just to bring it to a close. Sometimes that is the case. Sometimes, in all fairness, and it's not a question of always happening that way. Okay, but sometimes what it boils down to is a lot of people have got together and gone, this is how we're going to pass away. And they end up on the same flight with somebody that's going, I'm just trying to get to England. Okay. Unfortunately, there, football, that is exactly the situation. Now, I cannot speak to the individual accident. Okay. But I do know it takes a lot of orchestration, even from the people on the other side. Okay. To orchestrate things to make it happen. So most of the time, it's literally somebody on board has set it up. You're having a bad flight when it's the captain on board that turns around and has set things up. He's going to die in an airplane crash. He's got control over it. So what does he do? To heck with the people with the passengers. He just bounces the plane off the runway. Now this is not a very nice thing to do, but it does accommodate the idea of some of the people on there going, I desire to experience an airplane crash, or a sudden explosive detachment from the physical world. But there are so many variables involved, or so many different possibilities, that it's not, and this is why I said it's not like a suicide pact by any means. Suicide pacts, in case you hadn't noticed with the reports of them from, in past events, usually the person orchestrating the suicide pact, he'll stand there and he'll go, okay, this is what we're going to do. At this hour, we're all going to drink the Kool-Aid and be done with it. And he'll stand there and let them all drink the Kool-Aid and then walk away. Right. And he'll claim, well, I was righteous and therefore that's why I didn't die from the poison. Usually it's because the guy didn't drink it. Now, I will tell you, the one thing we all have in common, every single corporeal entity, every single living entity that I know of has the same thing going on. You're all going to die, and you're not taking the material stuff with you. It's just not one of those things that you get the options on. I must say, like I told you before, with with that big brown coffee cup I used to use, okay, that I got from my father's estate. The little coffee cup that I've been using, had I made coffee today, I probably would have been using it. The one with the alien hand on it. In all fairness, there, football, yes. I have seen dead pets visit people in dreams. I've seen the dead pets. The other thing that many, many, many mediums have told me, the dead pets don't go to the same place as people do. Well, from my being dead the number of times I have, I can tell you firsthand, that's a misunderstanding. There are a staggering number of pets. And bear in mind, when I'm talking pets, I don't just mean cats and dogs. I mean cats, dogs, fish, birds, plants, anything that has a soul ends up going to that same little place that most people seem to refer to as purgatory. Whoops. On your way there, Shadow. Thanks so much for joining us. You know, everything that it has in everything that is living, including, by the way, elementals and, such as air elementals and, fire elementals, this sort of thing, they all end up in the same place. Yeah. No, there's just the only thing different with animals is they tend to show up in their animal form. Okay. Robert, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Ultimately, that is correct, there, Robert. And of course, it does require for it to join you again. Mr. L, how you doing? I hope your day's been going well. Obviously, the things will only join you after they pass away. I know, and I know this sounds absolutely twisted. I used to have a plant. Okay, it was a croton, and you'll have to look up what that is. I'm no herbalist. I actually had to go and find out from somebody what it was. So I took the thing for a drive. After it started telling me that it wanted coffee, I'm thinking, let's find out what this thing is. So I took it to a local horticulturalist I knew and showed her the plant. And she goes, oh, that's a croton. Well, I'll tell you, that little croton drank more coffee than I do. And then unfortunately, when I had my stroke, my kids were more concerned about whether I was going to survive than they were about the plants. Can't imagine what caused that. But no, that little coffee cup I use, it has the alien hand on it. That came from a friend of mine for Christmas. This thing actually came from my other half. And I put fridge water in it. And this particular bottle will actually, this particular bottle of thermos, it's a 32-ounce thermos, that as long as I leave the lid closed, it will stay refrigerator cool for upwards of 24 hours. If I put ice in it, the ice stays there for days. But no, whoever you're dealing with, whatever species, pets, friends, family, all show up on the other side. To be honest with you, even many of the people you don't like show up over there. Okay. But that's where past issues quite often are put to rest on a soul level. For some reason, people seem to have this idea that it's got to all be done in the material world. It does not. Okay. Now, I will tell you, when I mentioned a long time ago, and quite frequently since, when I mentioned that everything is connected, this whole topic of the life between life. Okay, soulmates, soul families, twin flames, reincarnation. I start touching on that in the book from the Yldrbac Chronicles I'm in the middle of writing. Okay, I start touching on that there. But I am also working on extra books on the same idea. Okay, let's see, I don't have the list right in front of me, but I do know that some of the other books that I'm working on the lines of this one. Watch this, I grabbed the wrong one. I did. Got to remember, the white one is business. This one is dreams. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams. That same kind of title, believe in. Okay, I've got business done. self is done, I'm in the middle of dealing with success itself. Now let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. Football. A clone is a physically, genetically constructed constructed form that is an absolute duplicate of another individual. Okay, so basically what you're looking at is, if you think in terms of cars, somebody takes this car and turns around and copies every aspect of it and takes this car, okay, and makes another one, okay, making a duplicate. Now, when you're dealing with a walk-in, okay, and walk-ins are a really neat situation. Essentially, a walk-in is when you have a vehicle that one driver is operating, and then they usually have a mutual agreement between them, and that's set up between lives. Okay, where what happens is the first owner of the car goes, I only require the experience until I hit 20. Okay, that's it, or until I hit 40 or whatever year it is they want to be there till. Okay, a walk-in, like, it stays in contact with them during that first 20 years of their life. So they can get a handle on it, and then the driver swaps out. And this is when you'll find somebody, all of a sudden, there's a complete shift in personality or a complete shift in ability. Maybe the original person could play the piano like Mozart and could not throw a baseball if their life depended on it. And they end up in an accident, they end up going to sleep one night. Doesn't always require trauma by any means. Okay, but they go and they take a break, as in go to sleep. The original driver gets out of the body. Another one walks into the body, already built, already taken care of to a certain degree by the original owner. Okay, that's your walk-in. Okay, now of course that opens that other neat little question of what is one of these Klingon things, other than the heavy brow ridged individuals with a really bad attitude a lot of the time. Okay, but Klingons are attempted hijackers. They are people, and they are spirits that come in and for whatever reason are trying to override a body. Okay, and take control of it. Not exactly the nicest people. Yeah, quite honestly, just a couple of years ago. I mean, I don't communicate with them often because, well, frankly, I don't leave my apartment, and you don't run into many wild animals inside your apartment. I have, however, had confirmed communication with dogs, with wild dogs, with seagulls, with crows, with ravens, insects, various other animals. I've got one little squirrel that comes by here all the time. Usually in the fall when they starting to stockpile for the winter, and he'll come over to my window. Of course, you got to remember I'm on ground floor, right? I'm on the ground floor, so the squirrel will come over. He'll have a nut in his mouth, come over, pull it out, show it to me, wait for me to tell him he's doing a good job, and then he takes off. In all fairness, in football, they do. Okay, it clearly is not the same words that humans use, except in the case of some birds that are taught to speak, that learn how to speak English, and that can be an interesting setup. Okay, so yeah, animals will swear at each other just like everything else. I mean, heck, plants will swear at each other. They will get into full-blown arguments. I'll tell you, if you can hear plants and you walk into a forest where they're not getting along, it can be absolutely bizarre. Okay, but I used to actually have a bumper sticker that literally said, the more people I meet, the more I like my cats. And it really hasn't changed that much. But it's just as easy to talk to animals, as at least for me, to talk to animals as it is to talk to people or plants. I actually had a friend who had a grizzly bear for a friend. I was going to call him a pet, but the guy never came in the house. But after he made friends with this little grizzly bear cub, for the next 15 years, when he went out in the bush, right, when he went out into this area, the grizzly would track him down, come over and say hi. This was an absolutely wild animal. Okay. Now, I do caution you, there are animals that you don't want to try that with. I strongly recommend if you've ever been to Canada or if you're from Canada, when you go into the North Country, do not try and make friends with a wolverine. They're not really sociable animals. Well, in all fairness, that just brings to mind another thing there, football. Is it theoretically possible to talk to sharks? Well, never mind the theoretically. I ended up with one on the end of a hook one day that I had a very short conversation with. But the term sharks, I saw a study. Now, you tell me how this can be possibly a problem. A group of scientists, as far as I understand, it was an international group, were studying sharks. And they did a 3-year study to find out. Oh, well, we got to start out, and we'll get to that in just 10 seconds here, JCL. By the way, welcome aboard if I didn't see you before. They did a 3-year study to discover unequivocally that 95% of shark attacks take place in deep water. Now, just a curiosity thought, but anybody in the chat room, do you have any idea why 95% of shark attacks happen in deep water? They happen in shallow water. They found out 95% of shark attacks happen in shallow water. Now, it took them 3 years to figure this out. Okay, but can anybody in the chat room by any stretch come to an understanding and figure out why the massive majority of shark attacks on humans happens in shallow water, such as, at beaches, this sort of thing? I'm just curious if anybody's got the answer. Because I looked at this study and I'm like, how could it possibly take you 3 years to figure this out? Now, I'll come back to that answer in a minute. But JCL, well, that is, honestly, there's more food available in the deep ocean, but there's certainly more food available in shallow water. When you think about it, how many people and how many humans are in deep water for sharks to actually attack? Okay, most of the time when people go into deep water, they're on a boat. And aside from in the show Jaws, sharks don't, or Megalosaurus, sharks don't tend to get on top of ships. Okay, unless they've already been caught. And then they don't do much in the way of eating people. Well, what did I just do? There we go. Okay, JCL, first things first, because I want to make sure I get to this before you vanish on me, or before the question dies. First and foremost, let go of the idea that you want to hear plants, because the problem there is you're going, I want to hear plants. What the universe is hearing is, I desire to have a lack of being able to hear plants. Okay, So, first and foremost, alter your thought process. And this is just a deliberate recalibration, if you will, to I desire or I choose to hear plants. Now, the reality of it is you already can. Okay. And the catch there, when it comes to the plants, you may consider it your imagination. Okay. But after a certain amount of time, you'll look at it going, if that's my imagination, then frankly, I should be a multi-million-dollar movie writer, a screenplay writer. But literally, you quiet your mind and you listen. Plants do not speak English. Okay, usually. I know that Gordon did. Gordon was my croton, right? He spoke English. I mean, I remember walking by him one day. It's like, "Where's my coffee?" It's like, "Pardon, there's nobody in the room." "Well, who do you think I am?" And I stopped and zeroed in on him. I'm like, "You want me to get you coffee?" He goes, "Well, I certainly can't get up and go and get it." I'm like, "Point." And from there on, anytime I had a coffee, I'd have to give him a drink. But I'm just looking at this. Robert says same reason crocs take bodies down to store under logs and stuff. Rest of the body will stay in the low water. Absolutely. That's very much why they do it, because they let the food digest better for them if it's already been soaked and salted, or if we're talking fresh waters, just soaked. But I will tell you, much as crocs are faster than all get out in the water, on land, if I recall correctly, they can top out at somewhere between 30 and 35 miles an hour running. You're going to have a problem if they're trying to take you down for dinner. Okay. Now, football, in answer to your question, from what I've seen, some mermaids can be ugly. They're pretty much as varied. They're pretty much as varied in appearance as humans are, but they've got a lot less excess weight. Okay. They do have enough fat on them. And I don't know if you find that attractive or not, but they are far more toned, even with the excess weight. But you got to remember, they're swimming all the time. So if you're a human and you're swimming all the time, your skin is going to stay hydrated if you're swimming in proper water. If you're swimming in a chlorine bath, well, the odds are your skin is going to age. Okay. I do believe, I wonder if I've got it. I've been working on that one. Let me scroll down here, because I do believe I've got that in book one. Dwarves all the way down to Ray. I'm just scrolling down through the screen through the book I was working on. I'm looking for the information on the merfolk. Okay, there. Now, first and foremost, hey Patty, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has been going well. Yeah, I run into trouble. I'm a little scattered today in case people hadn't noticed. Yes, they are. And again, you got to remember, with the merfolk, first and foremost, they are roughly human-sized. And no, the manatee, I mean, I realize the myth is that sailors seeing the original manatees in the ocean thought they were mermaids because they look like people. Well, manatees look like people, kind of like pigs look like people. And, a dog a hairless dog looks like a person. I mean, there are similarities in appearance. Okay, but merfolk themselves are, they have very definitive human features. Okay, I'll call them human features, but the reality is the merfolk, it's more like humans have merfolk features. Okay. There are some that can breathe above water. Some that are actually able to breathe air and water. But for the most part, they stay underwater because they have to. Okay. And I didn't get my printer working properly to print things off. I'll be working on that again over the next couple of days because I do want to get some of these pictures shown. It is working quite nicely, but it's just taking time. Susie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. But the merfolk they are run by a monarchy. Okay. And if you go, now the merfolk are a different breed of people. They're a different species than your sea elephant. Okay. Joe, how you doing? Oh, excellent. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, Joe's just saying he just came from Gem and Jade. Got a reading about love, and he goes, it was great. I haven't actually talked to her myself, but I have, from my standpoint, it boils down to this. If you find somebody that can connect with you, that can help you, this is an excellent thing. Okay. When we look at the merfolk they do have some of them, like you've got two different classes, right? And it is the highborn, the royal class and the royal merfolk that have legs or that have the ability or they've either got legs directly or their tail is so well put together that it really boils down to they swim with their legs together and then just separate to walk. But the lower class, if you will, and when I talk about higher and lower, there is no difference in value. It's kind of like the paupers and the millionaires in human society. Paupers are worth just as much, obviously not monetarily speaking, but they are worth just as much as the millionaires are. Okay, but when you take a look at the merfolk, they usually live in and around reefs. Okay, usually we're talking reefs that are really deep. Like I know there is and I don't recall where it is, but in the Pacific Ocean, there is a mountain underwater, and I believe the peak is some 2,000 feet below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, where the mountain itself is taller than Mount Everest, but it's completely submerged. And I know there is a merfolk civilized society down there that live in the caves in and around the base of that mountain. Okay, but you got to remember, for those of in case people are looking at it going, we're gonna go down there and take that land for ourselves. We got to remember, they live there. They've been there for millennia, and they do have the added bonus of having friends that happen to be water elementals. And rest assured, and you've never heard of it because nobody likes to admit it. Okay, in the old days, in the early days of sea travel, people talked about these great critters, the kraken, that would come out of the ocean depths and pull creature ships to the sea into the bottom. Okay, if you take a look at the movie The Abyss, you will see a water elemental. That's that critter that you see working its way through the ship that takes on a human face. But that face is done deliberately. It is not the way they usually look. Okay. But the elephant and the sea elephant live at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. And mankind has not developed technology yet to get that far down. And besides that, there's like 100 meters. There's, I think, a half a mile, 100 meters by eyeball. I think there's like a half a mile of silt that you've got that is just sitting there as a barrier over top of the elephant civilization. Okay, so even if you can get down to the silt, which is something like 2 miles down, right, maybe 3. I'm not good with the distance itself, but even if you can get down there, you've got critters down there that, quite frankly, will take a modern day submarine and tear it in half just because it looked neat. Absolutely, you can, football. There is no place that I'm aware of that you cannot astral travel. Okay, I've done it in the ocean. I've done it in outer space. I've done it to go back and look back in time, not to change time, but to get an idea of what was going on. I've used it to travel to different planets, but there's a big difference between astral traveling someplace and physically traveling there. And besides that, when people tell you that astral travel is dangerous, it can be. But then so can playing live action Frogger. Okay. If you know how to do it, if you're experienced at it and you're comfortable with it, it's pretty reasonably safe. Kind of like skydiving. If you've been trained as in you've experienced it, whether you were actually physically trained or whether you were doing it just by safe. Well, in my case, the short answer there, football, is when somebody's trying is remote viewing you because you can feel it. Now, in my case, that gets to be kind of annoying. Okay, and what I mean by that, it gets annoying for them because I can knock them out of astral travel just like that. I actually showed that to a chap one day, right? Because he is an experienced astral traveler. And I said, let me show you a neat little trick. And I concentrated for a minute and I looked at him and I said, go ahead, get out. And he just about threw up on me, right? Because we just modified things and he couldn't get out. Now, Patty, now obviously I cannot prove it. I've never physically gone over and seen Loch Ness. Ogopogo I've seen. Okay. Ogopogo, in my opinion, I've got no proof of it, is number one, it's a long neck plesiosaur. The Nessie, as near as I can tell, because I haven't seen a real clear picture of her. Okay. But Nessie is either, and this would be determinant if she's got a short jaw or a long jaw. Because I haven't seen a quality picture that I can answer on that one. Okay, but if it's a short jaw, kind of like a short triangular head, then Nessie is a short necked plesiosaur. Okay, if it is a long head, much like a crocodile's head, then you're looking at an elasmosaur. In either event, on both of these individuals are dinosaurs. Okay. I've heard people say that, Ogopogo is nothing but a large sturgeon. It's a cute thought, and maybe it is. I am no cryptozoologist. Okay. But I will tell you this, and they have not proven it one way or the other. I don't know if they ever will. But I do know that Okanagan Lake is connected to the Pacific Ocean through a series of underground lakes. Okay, that's just the reality of it from my standpoint. Of course, I've been down there. Of course, I've also been in. I do not expect people to believe me. Okay, I really don't. I was looking at a book the other day on the different races, and it is amazing how many races people say, oh, I deal with all these races and they're all humanoid and they're all human sized. Like somebody came in and was talking to me one day and mentioned that there were hybrid humans, naturally conceived hybrid human Anunnaki. Now, this would be absolutely fatal for a human. Okay, because humans on average are 5.5 to 6 feet tall. The Anunnaki run 25 to 30 feet tall. Now, can you picture the disaster that would be there? Okay, but when I'm looking at many of the races, yes, there are a lot of them that are humanoid, but a lot of that reason is because of the fact that there are commonalities amongst bipedal, reasonably symmetrical individuals. There are certain genetic similarities to explore. Okay, but when we look at the Korlok, which are essentially 160-pound amoeba, okay, they don't look human. Okay, they really don't. So I mean, from my standpoint, I was just about to answer that there, Carlino. I caught the question, sort of, but then it was retracted. So I don't know if you decided you didn't want an answer, because most questions, to be frank, most questions that people ask, I'm quite willing to answer. There are a few that I won't touch, but I'll just come right out and say I'm not telling you. Oh, you might be happy to know where it comes to the expansion on the races of the worlds. Okay, I can honestly say that getting the pictures done and talking to my other half, who happens to be blind, I've got a lot more in the physical description beyond just the pictures I'm getting drawn. I'm also including in that the physical description for the people that can't see the pictures. Okay. And there's three types of people when it comes to visual acuity. Those that will see, those that won't see, and those that are unable of seeing. You're going to have to be a little bit clearer on just exactly what you're asking at football. I can read what you wrote, but football is just putting. How did you guys meet? Oh. How did my other half and I meet? I take it that's the question we're referring to. Okay, perfect. Now I'm not going to go in. There are certain details I won't go into, but in a nutshell, we had met online. Okay, no, it was not on a dating site. But we had met online. We talked for a little while, about some of the things that she was going through, some things I was going through, and getting an understanding of the way we interacted. And then she came out one day and just threw me completely offline, right? And asked flat out. She come right out and said, "Do you think that a relationship could be developed between us?" And my immediate reaction, she was expecting me to say, "No, that's a nice thought, but not going there." Because understand, she's way south of the border. So when she asked, I didn't even really hesitate. I went, "Look, before we even consider that, there's two things you've got to realize. Number one, I'm not moving, period. I'm just not. Okay. And number two, I've got a 15-year-old at home with mild CP. And if he never moves out, that's the way it is. Right?" I said, if you can work with that, then we can see where it goes. Well, it took her about 30 seconds to sit down and go, "I can work with it." Here we are 2.5 years later. Okay. And we are still together to this day. At 2.5 years, it's granted it's an online thing. Okay, at this point. You know, but in 2.5 years, we've never had so much as one argument. Not one. We've gone through some pretty hiccups, pretty serious personal hiccups, but we've never had so much as an argument, which I'm not complaining about, don't get me wrong. But like I told you guys a long time ago, if I got permission from her, if she gave me permission, I would fill in blanks. Right. And that's why I didn't say anything at all for the last, well, we're now into March. Well, just about. I'm a month away from being 2 years. So it was just shortly before I went online that we connected. And yes, I have told her flat out, she gets across the border, I will ask her to marry me. And the funny part there from my end, and from my end, it was really kind of comical in a sense, because, I looked at it, I says, look, you get across, I will ask you to marry me. And she turns around and she goes, don't do it on the first day. I said, okay. You can, the first part of the question there, Patty, may you ask? You can ask anything. Will I answer in this case? Yes. I have spent, well, let's see. We met we met in a past life before she even physically manifested on this planet. Okay. We met way back when the Garden of Eden encompassed the entire planet. It was not one little section. Contrary to popular belief, the Garden of Eden is the entire planet. Okay. But we met way back then. I actually had a past life with her and these are ones that the two of us have actually confirmed together by exploring them. Back in 1760, I actually bought her, and I bought her under the auspices of a slave. But the reality was, I didn't want a slave, but I was helping somebody get their child and their wife out of a bad situation. And the only way we could do it legally without causing problems was to purchase her. Right. We had a past life with her back in Rome as well. Right. So yeah, we've had a number of runs at it. And as she so poignantly points out, she has chased me for centuries trying to catch up to me. That's just where that's just one of those little situations. And does she know about the other question that goes hand in hand with that? Okay. Does she know about my other past lives and some of the things I've been doing? Like, I did not always have a nice attitude. I mean, I've got a pretty disconnected one right now, but I've had lifetimes. Well, I worked as an inquisitor during the Spanish Inquisition. No, I did not know her at that time. Okay. During the peak of the Roman Empire, I knew her then. And that went real sour for my career in a hurry. Right. That was just one of those things that was a bit of a shock for her. And yes, do I remember more details of those lives? Absolutely. But the reality of it is that sometimes the details can cause more problems. What do we got? Oh, okay. The neat part about it, when you take a look at the length of time that it took us, we met quite literally August 11th of 2021. On August 14th, by August 14th, I knew for an absolute certainty that that was the woman I was intending on marrying. It wasn't until August 24th that she turned around and came right out and asked me. Okay. So it gets to be a little entertaining. But yes, the reality there, you know, where am I here? Just looking back through some of the questions. I'm actually in the process of doing that. And that's one of the books that I'm working on. Of course, some of my past lives are going to cause massive controversy, and because of that, I'm not going to go into them. Okay. At this point, it's better if I leave some of my past lives alone. But many of the, when you look at things like, for instance, my time in England, I believe it was and I'd have to check back through my list because dates and I don't get along at the best of times. But I believe it was in the 1500s, the same time that Robin and the so-called mythological Robin Hood was running around. I was a thief. Okay, but I was a thief with a very specific issue. Okay, I focused on lockpicks. Yeah, quite honestly, Patty, the girlfriend that I had in 1828, the one that was murdered in front of my eyes, okay, I met her in the physical world, okay, and we recognized each other as former boyfriend and girlfriend. Her husband was an absolute gem to deal with because when we were introduced to him, when this girl brought him to talk to me and we dropped this in his lap, he was really good with it, right? And he was the one that for the next 3 years running would ensure that he'd come out on one of the 2 days that I was up there for the psychic fair, and he'd take the bunch of us out to their farm, where I'd have a home cooked meal. Okay. Now, it stopped happening when, quite frankly, I quit going up that end of the world. I've also got a friend that I was on, and I still don't know the year. Okay, but I've got a friend that he and I worked on a chain gang together. Okay, again, one of those lifetimes that wasn't necessarily nice. Okay, now somebody asked earlier, oh, there it is, football. Yes, football. I've actually had regarding people finding love in later years. Okay. I've got clients that I kid you not, both of them were centurions and were planning marriages. Okay, to each other, by the way. So yeah, if you're not dead, you can find another partner. You know, that's not, yeah. Well, that was just it, Patty. When like his wife asked him, well, doesn't it bother you that he's my ex-boyfriend? And he goes, everybody's got an ex. But let's put that in perspective. This is your ex-boyfriend from 200 years ago. No, I'm not worried about him. you know? So, the reality of it is that you can make the most of whatever life you've got. Okay, you can absolutely find somebody. And the one, somebody that you can connect with. The key factor to remember is you do not worry about what other people think of gender, of age difference. Quite frankly, from my standpoint, I don't even worry about the species side of it. But I will tell you, in Terran society, getting married to your cow, which has been done, by the way. Okay, there was a chap about 15, 20 years ago that legally got married to his cow. Now, I personally don't see the draw, but then I'm not a farmer. Okay. And in all fairness to most farmers, I don't think most farmers would look at their cow and go, oh, I'm madly in love with that specific bovine. Right. So, I mean, from my standpoint, I don't care. It doesn't cause me a problem. you know, but yeah, it's some people have very different draws. Okay, there was a gentleman that I knew of, and this is where I'll put it this way: I know of one young lass. She had five sons. Well, I don't know if they were sons, but she had 5 kids by 3 different fathers. She ended up finding a gentleman that not only married her but adopted all 5 of the kids. Okay, I know of, and so if you've got kids, you can still find somebody like a decent chap or a decent woman that will take you on with the family in tow. Okay, there is literally no functional barrier of what's possible. Yeah, I had the same problem when I found out about it. The reality there, Nikki, is I look at that kind of thing going, why? You know, and again, for those of you that have weight issues, okay, there was one client I had, the gentleman literally had to buy 2 airplane tickets if he wanted to fly anywhere. He literally had to buy, he was that size that he literally had to buy 2 plane tickets. His girlfriend had a model like body. Okay, beautiful woman, really was, but she could have fit in the calf of one of his legs. Now granted, only wearing the calf of his leg would have been a mini skirt. Okay, but it was funny because he contacted me. He was worried she was cheating on him because everybody and their dog was asking for her number and was trying to get together with her. Right. And the fact is, like, we identified the whole 9 yards. And like I told him, I said, yeah, there is no question. You do see her getting approached by everybody. I said, but you can never hear what she says, can you? And he goes, well, no, she's on the other side of the street. He says, yep. What you don't know is that absolute doll has a mouth like a sailor. Actually, in all fairness, she had a mouth that made many of the sailors around her blush. So your size, your height, your weight, none of it matters where love is concerned. Okay, there is somebody, I am a firm believer that there is somebody out there for everybody. Okay, yes, many people get hurt, and there's all these terrible things about, oh, they're just looking for one thing. Well, I will tell you this. One of the key factors that I found with people is when you get into a relationship, if you're trying to make certain that the potential partner isn't after, as the saying goes, just one thing. First and foremost, okay, given that you're seeing them face to face 2 to 3 times a week, the first 3 months, don't go near the bedroom or any facsimile thereof. If they're still coming around and you're enjoying your time, you've got a foundation you're working with. Okay. If you don't, way too many times, and by the way, this is not just relegated to men making that jump. Okay, women do it just as frequently, where they climb into bed with somebody, and all of a sudden the relationship falls apart. Because if that's what you're building it on, that's going to cause a problem down the road. Okay. So, I mean, from that standpoint, can you find somebody that is compatible? Certainly. I'm fully aware that with my other half, we've got a long distance relationship. Number one, I've never physically seen her. Okay, I've seen her on video, but I've never physically seen her. And in her case, even when we are face to face, she will not physically see me until after I get some time to work with her. At which point it's a questionable one. But bearing in mind that she's 100% blind, she's not going to physically see me. Okay. Hey, Carl, how you doing? Oh, well, first and foremost, by the current civilization, First of all, definitely not, because this current civilization, as in what we're living in, is way after what the pyramids were built by. The pyramids were built by the Egyptians. And I cannot prove this. I am not an archaeologist. Okay. But the Sphinx was built by somebody else. Okay. It was built prior to the Egyptians coming into power. Okay. And yes, if you look at the face of it, and I'd have to draw and pull up a picture to see, because I may know which race it was. I just don't recall the look of the face at this point. Okay, at the original people, but it was absolutely, the Sphinx was built way before the pyramids were. Okay, probably as much as 10 to 15,000 years earlier. Oh yeah. In all fairness, Nikki, I remember the Great Exodus. Okay, the Egyptian Exodus, and I remember working in the fields as a peasant there. Okay, I didn't have only one lifetime there, but Egypt, did they have this incredible mess with the plagues that are talked about? The answer is yeah, they did. They absolutely had the plagues, and the funny part about it is not all of the Egyptians were really nasty to their slaves. Okay, but I remember running with the people when we left Egypt. And that's why when they told about it, everybody's saying, "Oh, the Red Sea never parted." I'm like, yeah, it really did. But I'll tell you, it is one thing to read about it. It's another to remember running through that gap, through that chasm going, when is the water going to come back down on us? Now, in my case, I knew full well it wasn't going to, but it was still one heck of an awesome picture. You know, let's see. Patty's just asking, I just thought of something I heard. Do you know if there are several arcs of the covenant? Okay. Okay, first and foremost, there's only one actual ark. Okay. There's only one actual Ark of the Covenant. That being said, there were many replicas. Okay. And most of those were made by people going, oh, I've read about it, or I've heard, well, not read about it, but I've heard tale of this Ark. So I'm going to make one, and I'm going to make a name for myself. But only one contains the actual power. Contains the actual information. Oh, there were a lot of us that lost our sandals. Actually, in all fairness, we didn't lose them. We knew where they were. But nobody was interested in going back and getting them. So a lot of us ended up walking barefoot after the fact. Of course, you got to remember, like in my case, I had the sandals I was wearing were laced all the way up the ankle, or all the way up the calf rather. So mine didn't fall off, but I'll tell you, the sand in the bottom in your feet at that point, not the most enjoyable experience. When we start looking at the Ark of the Covenant, I just read or just saw a blurb the other day that apparently they found Noah's Ark down in Antarctica. Well, I'm not debating they found an ark there or found a ship there, but I will tell you they found about 35 years ago at the top of Mount Ararat. They found a ship that had the stone growing right into it. Okay, that matched the dimensions of the ark in the Bible. Now, I can tell you wholeheartedly, the one at the top of Mount Ararat is the real ark. Okay. I can also tell you during that great flood that the ark was not the only ship that was used. It was just the only one that survived. Okay. It's kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah. When we left Sodom, it was not a question of only 3 people got out of the city. There were a lot of people that got out of the city. They just only told you about 3. Okay. And that's where we start getting into that real neat thing of why are there so many discrepancies? Well, you got to remember that all of history is written by the survivors. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that gets a little twisted. Yeah, and the thing is on football, and no problem there. This is why I tell people if you've got a question that comes to mind, even if it's not on the same topic that I'm dealing with at that point, the topic just gives me some place to start. That's all. Okay. But I've always found watching the chat room and asking the questions, answering the questions people have is so much more useful than just talking about what I'm looking at or what I've been through. Okay. Because, and whatever you do, understand this is meant in the nicest possible way. But what went on in my life, on the whole, really isn't that exciting, at least not from my standpoint. And certainly not as exciting from yours. Well, nobody thought about making a salt lick company until way later in life. Okay. But I mean, there's an option for you there, Robert. Okay, if you really want to get into that highly competitive thing, of course, you got to remember the way they got so much salt was they flash fried the entire city. You super bake people that quick, all you've got left is salt. And I mean, the reality is there is a company, I don't know what the name is, but I came across it a while back, that takes seawater and literally boils it dry to collect the sea salt off it. Now, maybe that's where these people get the sea salt they sell in stores. Okay. I used to like on the coast when I was growing up, we had something called salt grass, where when high tide was out, we'd go out and we'd collect the grass and it had little crystals of salt on it. I believe that's what it is there, Robert. I believe that's the term for it. Number one there, Patty. When you choose your next life, typical pattern is you've gone through something. The normal thing that people go with is they've gone through a certain set of experiences and decided, I want to learn how to deal with those in a more effective fashion. Or I was talking to one guy that had passed away already, and he said, the next lifetime I come in, I am not going to be that and that against the law. Right? He says, I'm coming back, and this next lifetime, I'm going to work with the law. Okay. But the standard progression is most of the time, people are going through something in a given life, and they go, next lifetime, I'm doing things a bit differently. And there is nothing in your choice of life. There is little to nothing random. I mean, a lot of it is, but what happens is you talk to the people that you're going to interact with, not the least of which being your proposed parents. You set that up with them. Okay. But what goes on in your day-to-day life, from the time you're born till the time you drop dead, none of that is restated, is pre-programmed. This is not a question of you signed up and this is what you're destined to do. This is what you have to do this lifetime. That part of it does not exist. Yeah, and I've seen people like that. Robert's just saying, Judge Dredd, I am the law. the thing is, we have to have laws to make a civilization function. Okay, and this is why I say, when you're dealing with the written law, find out what it is, and to the best of your ability, whether you like it or not, whether you like the law or not, or whether you agree with it, follow the law. My primary reason for following written laws is I know I don't do vertical bar time very well. Now, I've never even gotten so much as a speeding ticket this lifetime. But my last lifetime, when I was born in Chicago, in 1814. No, I did not take a little trip. Sorry, 1914. In 1914, I was a violent child. Okay, and at 16 years old, I'd already been in a lot of fights, and they put me in jail. And I told them, "You don't want to put me in jail." I'd gotten arrested for assault, which, in my way of thinking, really, I mean, technically, I assaulted the guy. He made a comment I didn't agree to, so I put him in the hospital. Apparently, that was not the right way to handle the disagreement. But they arrested me and I told them, "You don't want me in that jail." And they were none too happy about it. It's like, "You're going into jail. That's just, you broke this law. You're going to jail until court." And I pled with them. I says, "Don't put me in that jail. You don't want me in there. It's not a good place." And the guy goes, "No, it's not a good place, but you shouldn't have broken the law." Well, they put me in the jail with 7 other criminals. Right. And the next morning when they come in, because they didn't come in, and to be clear, I was Caucasian. I was born in Chicago. Right. And I was Caucasian. Right. But I was violent. So, well, it did that. So I told them, I said, "Don't put me in there. You don't want me in there." Well, the next morning when the cops come down to bring me out of jail, they put me in with 7 people. And when they come down, I was sitting there on the bench with my hands on my, in my lap. I was just sitting there, with one leg crossed over the other and leaning against the wall. And there were 7 bodies and a whole pile of blood around. And the cop just stopped. He looks at me and goes, "What the heck happened?" I looked at him and I says, "They were a-holes." That wasn't quite the term I used, but you get the picture. And he goes, "They were a-holes and you killed them?" I says, "I didn't kill one of them. Right? I never killed a single one of these guys." "Well, they're all dead." And I looked at him and I says, "Points for you. And you're not even a doctor, I presume." He goes, and he points at this guy, and the guy's arm is hanging from the crossbar in the jail. He says, "What the heck happened?" I says, "Well, we got into an argument. I pulled a little too hard, and the arm came off." Right. And the cop goes, "You killed him." I says, "I did not kill him." He goes, "You did so kill him." I says, "No. He was alive after I tore his arm off. He bled to death. That wasn't my doing." Now, to be honest with you, Robert, I don't know who Jessica Fletcher is. But yeah, the guy got into the argument. I put him in the hospital because, well, and I know that sounds really bad. I didn't like what he said, so I put him in the hospital. Right. But I figured at least I didn't kill him. I thought that was a plus, but apparently they didn't see it quite the same way. Of course, after that, they pulled me before sending me to prison. The military got a hold of me and said, "No, you're going to work for the military. You want to kill people that badly. Right. We'll put you in the military. We'll at least contain it." Because they figured, well, if you're going to kill the 7 people in the jail, the odds are you're going to try and do the same thing there. But you got to remember, at that point, that would have been that would have been 1916, and they were already gearing up, and they already knew the war was coming. So they were already gearing up for it. Okay. So they put me in the military. Well, I have to be one of the people that ended up in this lifetime. I don't know chemistry, I don't know much about chemistry. But in that lifetime, on top of being violent, I was very adept at chemical combinations. Net result, I was directly involved in the creation of mustard gas. This lifetime, I accidentally built it. Right. Recognize the smell, and I'll tell you, it worked great for a cleaner, but it's not really good for the people around you. Oh, okay, yeah. Now I recognize the team. I used to watch that periodically, but thank you so much for that. Jessica Fletcher was a character from the show Murder She Wrote. Okay. Well, yeah, but the difference there is she doesn't actually kill them. In my case, a lot of people died at my hands. Why I didn't end up on death row, I can only surmise, was because they had use for me. I also remember a lifetime running with Attila the Hun. I personally was not Attila the Hun. Okay. So, and the one thing I will tell you about past lives is there's a staggering number of people that I've talked to that have gone, oh, I was King Henry VIII in a past life. And I'll tell you, there was only one King Henry VIII. I personally am not him, or was not him. Oh, yeah, I just had a temper that was just insane. Of course, I know where it came from, because I was born in 1898. Right. That was the first lifetime after my girlfriend got murdered in front of my eyes in 1828. So, of course, I came back into this world looking for revenge, for retribution. And I got it in spades. I absolutely got my retribution in spades. This lifetime, I'm a pacifist, and that's just the way that goes. Is it okay to choose the life of a murderer? I'm not the one to ask, because I did. I came back when I was born in Chicago, and I was not born on the street. I was white. Okay. I did not come, well, technically I came from a minority, because if you understand genetics, where we take a look at the global skin color, white people are the minority. And don't take my word for it. Look it up. Okay. But I chose to come in looking for retribution. I was ready to kill anybody. Okay. And that usually was the way it worked. But there had to be a reason for it. I did the same thing in Rome. Okay. Where in Rome I didn't come in intending to be a murderer. In Rome, my closest friends put me in a position where I just lost all sense of functional morality, and I went to kill everybody wearing a Roman soldier uniform. Like I'd go walking down the street, and I'd go past a guard that was just standing there doing nothing, and I'd cut him down and carry on. I wouldn't even look back to see what was going on. I didn't even bother with the idea of doing like the old assassins did, and go, oh, I killed him, I'm just gonna clear the body, take the stuff. I would just drop them and carry on, and that started because of the fact that I was told to watch when a young lass while a young lass got raped. I was told literally, it is your job to make sure we're not disturbed. So I made sure they weren't disturbed. These were the closest friends I had. For 2 years, I'd run with this squad. And we had each other's back, left, right, and center. But on this particular day, they told me to let this happen and just not say anything. So I didn't let it happen, but I also didn't say anything. but all 6 of my friends ended up dead. You know, the one thing you got to remember, Patty, about free will. Everybody and their dog has free will. You have free choice. What you don't have is freedom of consequence. Okay, that's the one thing you do not have. And this is what you have to realize. If you're going to do something illegal, okay, that is your choice. You can do it. I strongly recommend against it this lifetime. Okay. I mean, in past lives, I was a little bit more lackadaisical about it, if you will. Now, but the thing that everybody has to realize is, first and foremost, living in a state of fear is not a way to have an enjoyable life. It doesn't work that well. Okay. But you've got the choice. If you want to live that way, you're more than welcome to. Okay. But realize that if you're going to live in fear of everything, or if you're going to live a life where you're breaking the law, there are consequences to it. Okay. Now, there are a lot of ways you can do it. And what I'm striving to get across to people is, first and foremost, nothing in this life is predetermined down to, oh, I was meant to do this. The word meant or supposed to is designed by somebody else to say, this is what I expect of you. Now, if you believe in God, which I personally do, God came out and said, you have free will. You have free choice. I'd love you to follow this path. I really encourage you to be nice to each other, to get along. But the choice is yours. If you choose to get along, if you choose to follow this path, this is the Garden of Eden you're standing on. If you choose to go against that, then the Garden of Eden will cease to be a Garden of Eden, and you'll have to figure it out. Okay. Raven, how you doing? Caught us right at the end here. Hopefully your day has gone well. You know, the reality of it is that everybody... what do we got? And I absolutely agree with you there. You know, I did something a few years back, Patty, because I had a little extra money. And all I did was take five Christmas cards, you know, and put $20 in each one. And all I said in the card was Merry Christmas from Inner Voice Enterprises. That was all I said in it, and all I put in the card, aside from the Merry Christmas, was a $20 bill. Now, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I still don't. But I'll tell you, the look on people's face when you do something like that, or, you know, in all fairness, you walk down the street, you smile at somebody, and you say good morning. Most people are really happy about it. And yes, the feedback, the energetic feedback, is something to behold. It's something to really enjoy. Okay. Now, we are coming down to a close. I gotta tell you, today started off really scrambled, but I'm so happy so many of you came to join me today. Okay, and to share your time, you know, your life with me. With this, and well, with us, really. This said, I'm going to bring this to a close. I will be back again I'll be in on Friday. Tomorrow I won't be here, you know, because tomorrow's my gaming night. So I'm just not going to be here. But Friday from 4:30 to 6:30, I'll be in here. And then, of course, at 9 o'clock on Friday night, I'll be on Spaced Out Radio. And, you know, until then, thank you so much for joining me today. Really happy to see all of you. Absolutely, if you haven't given us a thumbs up, please do so. And certainly do subscribe to the channel and share it with everybody you possibly can. That would be muchly appreciated. That said, I'm trying to see who ODM is. OD8M. But glad you made it back. Sadly, you came in just as we're closing things down. So I will be back again But until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.